lately for problems. How about values-driven? What does that got to do with anything? I didn't even realize how important it was for the employees to understand my value system. In my company, I had what's called a PQ&I test done. I had a consultant come in, and they evaluated my employees. They gave them this test, and what the whole idea was is it was to test how the employees felt about their value system compared to the value system of the company. It came out, the results came back, the employees said, here's their value system, and here was the company's down here. I thought, where did they get that at? The consultant said, you need to sit down and tell them your value system. They need to understand more about you. They need to know more about you. I said, I can't believe that's going to do anything. And they said, trust us. I sat my 35 employees down, and I told them what my value systems were very easily. I said, you will never, ever lie to each other. You will never lie to a client. Even if it's to cover me up or to help me out, never lie to me. Never lie to me or for me. Don't lie to each other. Don't lie to the shoppers. You will never lie in this organization. Integrity is the most important thing to me. The second thing is I leave the office every day at 3 o'clock because my son is the most important thing to me. I'm his soccer coach. I'm his baseball coach. I'm his ski instructor. He means more to me than anything. And I will leave here when I have anything going on. If you have a child that has a ballet recital at noon tomorrow, I want you out of here. That stuff is important to me. I just laid it very, very clearly out my value systems to my employees. We took the PQ&I about 60 days later, and boom, par. Absolutely par. And it's changed the environment, the work environment dramatically because they understood more about my value system. They weren't protecting me. It lightened up my organization dramatically. So do your employees really understand more about you? Being decisive. Are you the kind of person that can make decisive decisions? Do you build people? See, there's two different types of leaders. One is when you hire a new employee and you see them rising up in the ranks really quickly, some of you out here might look at that person and go, whoa, what a threat. This person could have taken over my job. This looks serious. And then we try to suppress the person. There's also the kind of leader that says, wow, this person's good. I could use 10 more of them. Because these people can help catapult me to the next level. That's what an outstanding leader thinks. They build people. They do not fear anybody. They have respect for balanced lives. As I mentioned earlier, people have other lives outside of work. We have to respect that. You're energetic. You're highly intuitive. You don't need reports. You know, you can feel when your staffing is right. You know when your customer service is good. You can just feel it. And you lead by example, which is obviously the most important thing. You don't have to do this now, but I would highly recommend to you that you sit down one evening with a glass of Chardonnay and take a look at all of these characteristics, and I'd like you to take and put a check mark next to the characteristics that you possess. Now, that does not mean that if back in 1967 you were decisive, you get to check the box. It needs to be something you possess on a regular basis. The areas that you do not possess, please seek from somebody above you some coaching on those areas and try to fulfill those. Personal goals, personal action plan. Let's move on to a page called philosophy. See, outstanding leaders, they aren't paid to make the popular decision. Please fill in the blank. Popular. They are paid to make the right decision. These are going to be in conflict. If you are in a leadership role for any length of time, these two things are going to butt heads. You're going to have to make some decisions, and you're going to say, man, this is not going to be a pretty thing. The employees are not going to like this. But you have to be able to stand in front of the employees, look them in the eyes, and say, you know what? This is the right thing for our company. This may not be popular, but it's the right thing for our organization. And you have to make those kind of decisions. How about defining boundaries? Defining boundaries for our employees. Being an outstanding leader is like being a good parent. You don't try to control their every move, but you do want to provide them with very clear boundaries. What I mean by that, for those of you who are parents, understand this. We take and we draw this circle in the sand for our children. And we tell our children, this is where Mommy and Daddy want you to stay because this is very safe. This is a nice area. But you know what kids are like. You know they're going to go over to the edge over here, and they're going to step over there, and they're going to look at you and see if you're paying attention, right? And if you don't respond, they're going to come over here, and they're going to step out over here, and they're going to look at you to see if you respond. And if you don't respond, they're out here going, hey, 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 hey. And then all of a sudden, one day, when you want them back in there again, you go, get back in there. They go, hey, where were you the last 2 weeks? I was all over. This is the same thing with employees. When you give employees boundaries, when you tell them, I want these 5 things done, every single customer, every single time, those 5 things done, stick to it. Keep those very clearly defined. If you allow the employees to jump out and not do these things, and they know you can see they're not doing them, and you think you're going to be this, this free-flowing manager that allows them some flexibility, you're killing them. Please fill in the blank. Boundaries that are not clearly defined are painful. It is much easier to set up clear boundaries and keep them there than it is to allow them the freedom. It's not good for them, and it certainly isn't good for you, nor good for the customer. Behavior change. See, customer service coaching primarily does seek behavior change. You're asking your employees to change. And again, this is not about aptitude. We're asking about attitude change. But you must focus your coaching skills more on the why do it. Please fill in the blank for me. It's the why should they do it. They're going to want to know why. And employees may not change their behavior unless they see a need for it. How about culture change? Employees need to be told, and you need to incorporate this word more into your vocabulary, the word culture. Because there are programs. Every corporation has programs. Like I talked about with Safeway earlier. They have sales programs, they have customer service programs, they have all these programs, and most employees perceive that one program gets replaced by another one. When a new program comes along, it replaces the other one. That's the way people think. That's why we need to begin using the word culture and let the employees know that the culture of our restaurant is going to be that we're going to exceed people's expectations. This isn't a program. This isn't something that's going to be going away. It is here. It's ingrained with every ounce of our fabric. When I see an organizational chart, a lot of organizations have organizational charts. This is not an unusual organizational chart. They have quality service as a department within the corporation. But when I see a corporation that has a culture of giving outstanding service, this is what I see. Quality service engulfs the entire organization. The office, the call centers, every aspect of the entire organization. Include the people back in the fry area, everybody is engulfed in this idea of this culture of giving outstanding service. The second line down, I'd like you to fill in the blank for me. You must also create an environment. Please fill in the words, an environment where this culture can exist. Do not stifle the employee's creativity or ingenuity. If they try to reach out and try some new things, allow them a little bit of freedom, though, to try some new things if it exceeds the customer's expectations. 100% buy-in. You are only as strong as your weakest link, and if you have one employee in your organization that is not subscribed to this, they might be in the wrong organization. Many of you do it. You have employees working for you that probably shouldn't be. Sometimes just out of hiring desperation, we hire people that we don't want, but we're just short. We need them. But really realize that culture will not exist unless everybody subscribes to it. Fill in the last blank for me. The culture must be non-negotiable. That's another word I would like you to inject in your vocabulary. It is the words non-negotiable. When you talk to the employees about the 5 things that I want you to do, these are non-negotiable standards. We're not going to discuss them. They will be done. 100% of the time, every single customer, every single time. Coaching. I'm in an unfortunate position because I will not be a coach. In this environment, I'm a teacher. I throw information out to you. It's a one-time event, and I hope that you take information back and utilize it. You are in a situation to be a coach. Coaching is, can you please fill in the blanks for me, continuous, and it is consistent. Coaching never stops. Look at baseball. Look at a batting coach. When Ken Griffey Jr. is having batting problems and he gets up to the plate to swing, the batting coach sees problems. The batting coach sits down with Ken. The batting coach does just not go to Ken. He doesn't go there and say, Ken, your hitting stinks. He knows that. What he needs is specific information about how to change his behavior. What Ken is looking for from a batting coach is, okay, spread your feet 2 inches further out, bring your elbow up a little bit, turn your head a little bit. Coaching is we're giving bits of information to an employee that will change their behavior. An example, if you have an employee that works at the register, and you notice that they're not staring the employees or the customer in the eye, they're not giving good eye contact, they're staring down at the tray, they're staring everywhere else but at the customer, and you want to try to help them. Well, going to that person and just telling them, boy, you got to give better eye contact, that doesn't do any good. What they need to hear is they need something that's going to change their behavior. What I would do is I would tell that employee, John, the employee or customers really feel an emotional bondage when we give them good eye contact. It's something that makes them feel more important. We need to begin doing it, and I want to help you out a little bit. What I want you to do is every customer that walks forward, that comes to you, I want you to look and see if you can tell the color of their eyes. Look in their eyes and see if you can pick out the color. Now, don't say it out loud. That might sound a little dorky. Blue, brown, green. But get the color of their eye. Because the amount of time that it takes to see the color of someone's eyes, that's the amount of time it takes to create a little bit of an attachment to that person. Now, twice during the daytime, during your next shift, your 4-hour shift, probably a couple times, I'm going to come up behind you when it's slow. And I'm going to ask you what the color of the eyes were of the person that just left. And if you can get both of them right, I'll buy you a bag of Oreos tomorrow because I know you love Oreos. Or I'll take you to lunch or whatever. But that's what a coach does. It gives them very specific tools and information with which to help them succeed. If you ever heard of a gentleman named R.J. Wrigley, Mr. Wrigley was the founder of Wrigley Chewing Gum. And there's a story about him on an airplane one time. The gentleman sitting next to him says, Mr. Wrigley, I don't understand it. He says, your name is just predominant in the chewing gum industry. You own the business. He says, I don't understand. If you're already number one, why do you continue to advertise? And he says, well, for the same reason that the pilot of this airplane keeps the engines running once we're in the air. You can't stop. It's not a race to a score. If you are the best, you can't stop. You have to continually coach employees. It will never stop. So never ever think that there's an end to this path. It is consistent. It is ongoing. The next area, which is coaching tools. Now, we are going to sit down. We are going to coach employees. Do we have the proper tools to do it? People have about 3 different types of learning skills, approximately, different ways to take in information. And I want to cover those with you. The first one is there are visual learners. You have some employees that learn best visually. These people like to think in pictures. Please fill in the word pictures. These are the people, you can recognize them, because when you ask them a question, they look up over your head like this. It's because they're waiting for a picture to form. They don't like phones as much as other people. They're the ones that are not going to race you to the telephone. They like things written down. They love notes. They love paperwork. They love to see things in writing. They may not have a lot of expression in their voices. They may tend to have a little bit more flat or monotone voice. They must think before they talk. You might consider them really a slow person. But what they're doing is, again, they're waiting for the picture to form before they respond to you. They want to see it clearly. And when they give feedback, they may use language like, you know what? I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's because they can. It's right over your head. The distance between the two parties, when you walk up to this person to talk to them, the distance that they're going to leave between you is about 4 to 5 feet. They're the ones that are going to stand back a little bit. If you try to squeeze them, they'll step back. They want to see all of you. They exhibit very little eye movement. They'll tend to keep their eyes a little bit more focused during your conversations, because if their eyes move around too much, they lose the photograph. They lose the picture. The best ways to coach these people is using diagrams, pictures, bullet points. The other learner is an auditory learner. These people like to hear things spoken. Please fill in the blank. They like to hear things spoken. Oh, and they love phones. They will race you, and they will win. That does not mean that all teenage girls are auditory learners, however. That's just being teenagers. They have a tendency to interrupt. They are the ones that before you finish your sentence, they're talking right over the back of yours. That may help define it for some of you. They talk to think. They're the ones that might be standing over there in the corner talking to themselves, and you think they're nuts. They might be, but they're also auditory learners. And when they give feedback, they might use words like, boy, you know, that sounds good to me. Yeah, that sounds good. Because it does. The distance between these two parties, when you go up to talk to them or they come to talk to you, they'll stand about a foot away from you. They don't need to see you. They just want to see your mouth. They exhibit lots of eye movement because they're face-to-face with you and they really don't want to see your face that much anyhow, so their eyes move around quite a bit. They have no pictures to sustain. The best ways to coach these people is simply verbally. You can just talk to them. They're just like a sponge. The last learning style is kinesthetic, or you may hear it called kinetic. They wear their feelings. They're a real touchy-feely group. They come up to talk to you, and they hang on to you, and they touch you. Know them? They also deal with the emotion of movement. They like movement. They might get side by side, and they'll use words like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I feel that. It's because they can. They're hanging on to you. They learn by hands-on coaching. Please fill in the blanks. They learn by hands-on coaching. The best way to help these people out is by role-playing or some movement. Now, here's your options. If you've got employees that work underneath you, 5 employees underneath of you, you're going to want to find out before you sit down to coach them, if you want to be an outstanding leader, you better figure out which learning style they are, because they're not all going to accept it. If you have someone that is a real visual learner and you try to just speak to them out, they might not get the whole thing. They might need something visual, a brochure, maybe a procedure manual or something to stare at. That's how you help your people. Now, you might know just by reading this who some of your people are. But if you don't know, you might just even keep a list. You know, Bob, and give him this list. Give him this piece of paper, photocopy it, hand it to him and say, tell me, which learner are you? Just help me out. And keep a list. Bob, visual. Jane, auditory. Keep a list. When you need to do some coaching, go look at it and say, Jane, auditory. Oh, good. I can just talk to her. And that's the way she learns best. This is what removes you from not just being a supervisor. It takes you into being an outstanding leader of people and a great coach. Now, in my situation, I have got this room full of people that I have to try to get to all of the learning styles. It's challenging when you have a group of people like this. What is it that you think that I've done to try to take care of the visual learners? The handout, absolutely. Yeah, you've got something to look at and read. What else? Yeah, PowerPoint presentation. So those are a couple of things that kind of keep you spiked every so often so you don't doze off. How about the auditory learners? What do you think I do for the auditory learners? Simply talk, but you'll see my voice inflection. This is to keep you from falling asleep as well. So I use a lot of voice inflection, and I inject humor every so often to try to spike you. What do you think I do with the kinesthetic learner? Yeah? Fill in the blanks. Yes, very good. I knew all these answers before I got here, by the way, folks. I could have filled them in for you. But it's to keep you active in the learning process. What else do I do? Walking back and forth. Yeah, I don't have to go to the bathroom, believe it or not. Yeah, I do this because I'm trying to keep you entertained. For those of you who have ever sat and watched somebody stand behind a podium for 2 hours and give a seminar, you know, man, it's tough. So that's when you see people doing these things. That's what it's all about, to try to reach everybody. How about you don't say? Sometimes your actions speak louder than words. Be aware of the message you send your employees with your body language. I need to steal a chair here real quick. Let's just say you have an employee that comes to you and says, Brad, I have got a horrible problem. Can I talk to you about it? And you go, oh, yeah. And then you sit there and you listen to them when you got your leg over here bouncing as they're talking to you. What message do you see that this has? Yeah, impatience, lack of interest, urgency. It just basically says, nice story, but don't give a rip. Yeah. Hand on the telephone. Now, I was guilty of this one. I had an employee that just busted in my office. He's about probably 275 pounds, big guy. He just busts through my office door, almost scares me, sits down in my chair in front of my desk, and starts talking to me about things when I've got a lot of things to do. He doesn't ask permission to do so. I found myself with my hand on my telephone. I would go right up to my hand on the telephone. I was sitting there talking to him one day. I looked over and I thought, what the heck's that doing over there? I don't have to make a call. But I finally realized I was trying to get him to see that I got things to do. I got a call to make right here. I found myself doing it without even thinking about it. Raising an eyebrow. So you might have a good friend come to you and say, I swear I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Yeah, that might show disbelief, questioning, or surprise. Nodding your head. Now, nodding your head's a cool thing. See, when you're nodding your head, you're telling the person you're right with them on the story. So you have that employee come in and say, oh, I got a horrible problem, Brad. And you go, oh, sure, tell me about it. And you got your head nodding like this. You're listening to that story. See the head? It says, I am all over this story. I am right with you. Now, inside, you might be saying to yourself, boy, I don't have time for this crap. But this head, I'm telling you, yeah. Leaning forward. Now, whether you're seated or whether you're standing, leaning forward does have some different signs to it. If you're sitting in your chair talking to an employee like this has a different visual message than this. It's very easy to see. This says, I'm interested in you, and this one kind of says, 10-hour day. Looking away. When your cashiers are working with customers, make sure that during the time that they are face-to-face with that person, that they're keeping their attention on that person. Looking over their head or looking at the other people behind them, that just drives us absolutely nuts. And if you're out front and you're working with someone and you see something, a security concern or whatever else it is, don't keep looking around. Excuse yourself from the person. It's better to do that and remove yourself totally and deal with it than to sit there and look over this person's head. It drives me crazy. Remaining silent. Now, remaining silent is a very powerful motivator. Remaining silent is good news. Even to take your employees monthly or quarterly and sit them down and just say, tell me how things are going around here. What do you think we can do to improve the place? And say nothing else. Just absolutely shut up and just listen to them. Again, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. If we could just use them that way and listen twice as much as speak, it's a big motivating effect. This is true, too, when customers come in and customers are complaining about something. Again, let them just listen. Let them get it out of themselves. Crossing the arms on the chest. This is rarely good news when anybody comes over to you like this. This is just not good news most of the time. This is a defensive mechanism. This means they're putting up a barrier. It's an invisible barrier, obviously, but it's a barrier between you and them. They have some anxiety, and this is a sign right here. They're not going to let you get to them. So if you have a customer that comes in or an employee and their arms are folded like this, as you do some of the things we just talked about, watch the arms. If they come down, that means that you've dropped that barrier. And some of it can just come from simply just listening or leaning forward, nodding your head, some of these things we just talked about. Slouching shoulders. Watch your posture while you are in your restaurant. As you are in your restaurant, keep your energy up. Even if you are beat, keep your shoulders rolled back, keep your energy up, let them see that energy in you. Just take one time for an experiment. Walk into your restaurant and just do this. Try that. All of a sudden, you look around your restaurant, all the employees are going, oh, just like that. Widening of the eyes. Widening of the eyes is motivation, anxiety, interest, or it could be a holdup. Here's some of the top motivators for employees. The number one motivator still is, after about 20-something years, recognition. Simply recognizing an employee for doing something good. An employee would rather have some praise a few times per week or once a day than they would a 25 or 50 cent an hour raise. it means more to them. The employees will tell you, no, I want money. Not true. Non-cash awards. Non-cash awards can be gift certificates. It can be a half a day off or a couple hours off, some free time. It can mean Microsoft stock. I mean, whatever you got around, throw it out there. Being listened to. Again, a very big motivator. Just sitting down with employees and saying, just tell me what's going on. Tell me how you feel about things. And letting them just speak. Big motivator. Top demotivators. Office politics. It'll kill you. We talked about that. Don't get in the middle of it. Let them work it out together. Unclear expectations. Hypocrisy and being taken for granted. Reasons why employees leave companies. Well, 34% is from limited recognition or praise. Reinforces what we just learned earlier. 29% is compensation in some form. 13% limited authority. 9% personal conflicts. And it is 16% other. Now, here's top qualities of an outstanding employee. Hold these things up to yourself and hold them up to your employees and find out how do they stand up. You have a positive attitude? Are you enthusiastic? Are you determined, motivated, confident, optimistic, dedicated, happy? Are you a good listener? And are you patient? And the best hiring practices are still, bar none, hire the smile and train the skill. You cannot train people to smile. The last page is on action. What can we do tomorrow that we did not do today? What are some of the tools that we can put into place to make some behavior change occur? These are just ideas. The first one is a personal action plan. See, few of us like being told what to do, and very few of us obviously like being dictated to. I'd like you to fill in the word dictated. We don't like being dictated and told what to do. As I said earlier, when you tell an employee, I want you to do this, they go, I don't think so. That is just the way we are. What I'd like you to think about is maybe sitting an employee down and saying, what are some of the things that you can do to begin to exceed customers' expectations? And what can you do to improve your performance? And ask them about the things that they would do to change and see what they can come up with. And in order to do that, if they do that, and they do their own things, they've now created their own destiny. And change will occur much faster. I'd like you to go the 4 lines down. Far right-hand blank there, 4 lines down, right side, it says the employee has now created their own destiny. And they'll feel more responsible and more accountable about making the change occur. Here's the 3 questions I would like your employees to ask themselves. They should ask themselves, what should I start doing? What should I start doing? Fill in the blank. What can I start doing tomorrow that I did not do today? What should I keep doing? There are some things I'm doing now that are really working. I want to keep doing them. The last one is, what should I stop doing? What are the things that aren't working? You can do an action plan monthly, you can do it quarterly, you can do it anytime you want. In my office, before we do any reviews, we always have the employee turn in a personal action plan first. So we get to see what they're looking at in terms of change, and we incorporate that into their reviews. By the way, there can be more than one thing for each of these. So what should I start doing? Somebody might think of 3 things. Great. When it comes to what should I keep doing, there might only be 1. What should I stop doing? There might be 2. Whatever. Allow them the freedom to pick those things. And then you ask the employee, when they've got it all filled out, ask them, how long is this going to take to initiate? When can you start? And they'll say, now? Great. It'll happen much faster that way than if you try to mandate it. Mentoring. Now, mentoring is not new. I'm not trying to paint it as a new theory, but I would like you to understand the reason why. The reason for mentoring is very simple. When you hire a new employee to come into your environment, it is human nature for employees to come into a new work environment and seek out people much like themselves. They will find the smoker if they're a smoker. They'll find the person closest to them. That is not always good news for you. I would highly like to recommend that when you hire a new employee, if they are going to be working at the register, I would recommend that you take them over and say, John, I want to introduce you to Mary. Mary's going to be your mentor for the next few months during your training, because this is the person that we hold at highest esteem. Now there's absolutely no problems about understanding who that person should be like. It is very clear that you want to be just like this. You want 20 more people like that. That's the reason for mentoring. Seeking the wow factor. You might maybe on a monthly basis, if you have monthly meetings, maybe hand out 3x5 note cards to the employees and ask them to write down on that note card an idea. Maybe even give them a few days to think about it. But think of an idea, something that they can do that might exceed people's expectations, that might wow the customer. Maybe it's not even for their job. Maybe they're a cashier, or maybe they've got an idea for some other position in the restaurant. Have them come up with some ideas and see if you can utilize and attempt to try some of these. Now, you have to let them know up front that not all of these ideas will be used or tested. But you want them to try a few of them and try to find something new that you've never done before. The fourth line down is a blank. You want innovation. Please fill in the word innovation. How about a weekly praise list? You might take, if you've got, again, 5 employees that work underneath of you, you might take a piece of paper and write their names down on this piece of paper. Maybe even photocopy it maybe 10 times to give you 10 weeks' worth. But during the next week, Monday through Sunday or whatever your work week is, make sure that you get to praise each one of these people for something. What it will do is it will force you or your supervisors to keep their heads up more, looking around and trying to catch the employees doing something good. Because, again, praise will change behavior. I don't know if you ever measured it or not, but there's only an 18-inch difference between a kick in the butt and a pat in the back. Not a big distance, but it's a big difference in how we motivate people. I'd like you to fill in the next line, which is praise breeds change. Praise breeds change. I think that if you praise people, they will change their behavior much faster. And that's what this does. It allows us the opportunity to give praise to these people and make sure that everybody gets a little bit. Praise specific behavior or action. Not just thanks for the good job. When the employee walks out at the end of the day and you go, hey, good job today, you might confuse them. You might be saying, well, what's so good about my day? Till's $40 short, I got yelled at 3 times, dropped 2 trays. That was not a real bonus day in my eyes. They want to know something very specific. They want to know, John, today you had that angry customer around noon today. Man, you handled that beautifully. That was a piece of work. I would highly recommend praising an employee around other employees so the other employees can hear it. So the other employees go, wow, is that what it takes to get praise around here? I can do that. How about don't hit and run, thank you. Take time to sit with the employees, or take some time, walk over to the side, look out in the eyes, and take some time to really give them some sincere thank yous and some praise. So just make sure that at the end of your work week, if your praise list has 5 people on it or 10 people on it in total, and you have not done one praise for the entire week, do not run through the restaurant and go, hey, good job, good job, good job, outstanding. No. And do not praise ordinary performance. They won't be driven to do better. Weekly thank you notes. You might even consider just getting a small box of Hallmark cards or some little stack of cards, put them in your desk drawer. It's amazing what that does when an employee thinks you took the time. You saw them do something. You saw them carry a tray out for a senior citizen. They opened a door for a senior citizen. They did something and you went, wow, that was really neat. And you took the time to go back and just write it into a small card and give that to them. Man, that is powerful. They do not forget those kind of things. Please fill in the blank. Each week you should pick an employee who has stepped outside the box and is trying new things to better themselves and the company. That is worth a card. And as Dwight D. Eisenhower once said, you do not lead by hitting people over the head. That is assault, not leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very, very much for taking this much time today. I appreciate it very much.